In the constantly changing world of fundability, the big question is this: how are entrepreneurs and real estate investors like us, ones who want to grow our businesses and who are tired of paying for really expensive alternative lending, how do we tap into the most inexpensive money available and do it without the hassle of typical borrowing? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. Welcome to the Get Fundable podcast with your host, Merrill Chandler.
Welcome, everybody. Merrill Chandler here, your host of the Get Fundable universe, and in this moment, the Get Fundable podcast. So in this episode, I have got a wild ride, literally a wild ride to share with you. And it is I'm going to share with you about a massive breakthrough that I had that is definitely bigger than just fundability, even though it does apply to fundability. So when we come back, I can't wait to share with you the insanity of my own limiting beliefs. I'll talk to you in a second. All right, guys, I'm back with another Get Fundable podcast episode. Now, I'm going to tell you this one really shook me to my roots. I got to share with you. It is, I'm just going to confess right now, it is no bueno. I played this horribly. So what am I talking about? Well, first of all, I've shared with you in different environments where I joined it's called Multiple Club. And I went to Multiple Club thinking that I was becoming part of how to raise the value of my business, right? How to become a better CEO, or in my case, how to become a CEO at all. And so we were at this quarterly event recently, and I got my ass handed to me. So we're the very first activity on the first day of this quarterly event. We're in two vans, and we're going from Newport Beach, where they picked us up from our hotel and drove us out to the Salton Sea. I think it's the largest. I'm from Utah, and so we got Salt Lake. This is like 2 to 3 times the size of the Great Salt Lake, and they call it the Salton Sea. And the Salton Sea, next to it are all these sand dunes and crazy places to do off-roading, right? ATVs, razors, which are like dune buggies, but with huge knobby tires. I mean, it's a whole thing, right? I'd never been on a razor before. So when I say razor, I'm talking about think dune buggy with massive knobby tires and all terrain. All right. Well, so we pull up to this rental place, this all-terrain vehicle rental place, and we're all excited. All of a sudden, it's like, this is going to be so much fun. I can't wait. We're going to get out in the dirt. Right. So I'm thinking, hey, everybody has an ATV or whatever is going to be. Well, we go over to the side, and it's announced to us by Nick, our captain in chief, our facilitator. He goes, you guys, we're gonna split you up into teams of 4 razors, 4 people in each razor. So we said, we started all dividing up, and they named the people who are going to be in each car. Now, you guys, you have to understand this. First of all, we're all excited. It's our first quarterly event, and there were 5 razors with 4 people each. Because there were 20 of us in the event, and they came to us, outlined who the 4 people were, and they set down some rules. They said that take 5 minutes and decide how you're going to win this race. Take 5 minutes and decide how you're going to win this race. The only rules are that every single person has to drive. Every single person has to drive. Oh yeah, it was drive 25 minutes. So we're like, okay, So that's making us, you couldn't just all be radical drivers. Even the scaredy cats would have to spend 25 minutes at the wheel, right? So we huddle up as a group and we're like, all right, here's our game plan. Who should lead out? And our friend Nick, you're going to be hearing from Nick. He's an amazing man he's going to be on a later podcast. You're going to love it. Anyway, so Nick is going to be the first to drive. I think I'm second or third, and with a follow-up on the last driver. So we have our plan. Everybody has their plan. There's four other cars, and we all jump in to our vehicles, and then they take us out to these to this dry wash. Right, a dry wash is where the river water would go, or the runoff would go if it rained in this desert, right? But it's a huge wash, and we set up 5 cars side by side, waiting for the flag, right? Well, one group found, while we pulled up, something went wrong, so we were down to 4 of us, and they were going to go back, and then they were going to do the activity, but weren't part of the race. Okay, so we all line up and we're all excited, and then all of a sudden they did the huge go, and we're like, eh! And if you're not the lead car, you are eating dirt. I mean, eating dirt. You got to go to the show notes to see this, guys. We've got 3 or 4 pictures that I took with my iPhone, literally bouncing around in the back because I was in the back passenger, and I'm literally trying to catch pictures, and it was insane. So go to the show notes at getfundablepodcast.com. Look for this episode, getfundablepodcast.com. All right, so we're blazing, and then we ended up passing one group, so we were like we're in third, and we're eating dust, and we're literally trying to get around these other guys. Dirt was flying, sand everywhere, and we're literally just covered. Within a minute, we are covered with just encrusted with sand and dirt. So we're blazing through this desert, we're given the instructions to follow a certain trail. And so we're blazing up through this wash. We turn onto this dirt road. So it's a little smooth for a minute, and then and blazing, and everybody is pedal to the metal. Now, you got to remember, these are CEOs of anywhere between $1 and $10 million businesses. $1 to $10 million. Everybody's trying to increase the valuation. Everybody's participating in the multiple club as a way to to create greater value in their communities and create greater value for their enterprise, for their business, right? So we're tapping on each other on the head. Go, go, go. What do you get when you have 16 alpha males and 1 alpha female? It's insanity. There was no letting up on the gas. There were times we were bouncing our rear end up. I was hitting my helmet on the roll bar because we were literally hitting every single thing, every single bump at full speed. So you'll see the pictures. So we come up on this hairpin turn, but the hairpin turn was kind of unique. It wasn't like this. It was a bank, and it was like, 12 feet high. So you could literally just gun it all the way around the corner and keep going, right? Except we went so high that our right tire, the right wheel, caught a little crevasse between the banking hill and the rest of the hill, dumped it right in there, and flipped our car. Just straight up flipped our car. Now we were several minutes ahead of the car behind us, and we were literally seconds behind the car ahead of us. No visibility, no dirt, no nothing. Wheeled around this hairpin curve up on the bank, and just totally biffed it. flipped the car, and here's what was hilarious. With the first, it was like 2 minutes because there's a little bit of shock and denial, of course, the human condition. We're a little shock and denial, and I'm sitting there hanging from my seatbelt, as is everybody, but we're on our side. We didn't end up on top on the roof. We didn't roll it all the way over, so we were belly up. We're on our side, and so I'm literally hanging on my for my seatbelt. And the front passenger is also hanging. The other two were actually on the ground because it's open air all the way around. They're on the ground, shoulders on the ground in the passenger or on the driver's side, both front and back. All right. So you guys, you have the images here for all of you who are exercising, working out, or etc. This was a freaking nightmare. And so I'm hanging there. Everybody's checking. Everybody okay? Everybody okay? Check. Can you feel your appendages? Any blood, anything going on? We all checked out. First of all, praise the funding gods for the adventure gods for this one. So everybody checks out. And then one of the guys said, all right, so who gets out first? And I'm like, bro, I think you need to get out. The downside need to slide outside of the window and get out first, because us passenger side people, we're hanging. And there was so much body weight on these that I had to use both hands to pull up on the roll bar so that my partners could unbuckle my belt, and I literally fell to the ground from that side. Now, here's the thing. I now have personal experience. Sure, we're out in the sand and desert, but I totally understand now when somebody who says, they crash into the water and there's panic going on, the water's coming up, and somebody says, I can't get out of my seatbelt because there's this pressure. Depending on where you are, I could not. I'm relatively strong. I had to use my strength to lift up to take the body weight off of the seatbelt so I could even get out. So I fall to the ground, and then, like my partner in front of me in the driver's side front, a passenger side front, we both hit the ground and crawl out through things. Look at the show notes, getfundablepodcast.com. You're gonna see. I think we can even put a video in there of some of the hilarity that was going on. So we all get out. We're all checking each other. We turn around 360s, make sure it's going on. I had a little blood on my hands, and one of the guys, the driver, Nick, his shoulder, the other Nick, Nick 2, and his shoulder was had started to hurt, but no big deal at this point. And so we're like, now nobody's come up behind us. They're still way back. And so we walk out above and we turn around and we just kind of behold the mayhem that had come out of here and everything that had happened. So so we're all laughing, and it's kind of that awkward, nervous laugh because we're not going to win this race. Air quotes for a reason. Just a minute. If you're watching, if you're listening, I did air quotes. So we know we're not going to quote win this race, end quote. And so we go to we call the rest of the crew, and that kind of they were in the chase car in the chase car RZR. They came up and everybody's laughing. It was so absurd that we even have, and I'll try and get the video on this. We even had the guys pull out their drones and take pictures, just kind of floating over. It was cool as hell. It was just amazing. We were all alive. No one was hurt, etc. All right. So in the chase car comes up Nick 1, the facilitator, this and that and the other, and I do not remember all the details because I was still in a little bit of shock, but it went something like this. So what were your instructions? Instructions were, you guys figure out what it means for you to win. What are you going to do what are you going to do to win this race? I'm sorry. What are you going to do to win? And for us, all these alphas and our car especially, because Nick was pedal to the metal. It was pegged the entire time. And we all had bruises to prove it. What are you going to do to win? Define what you're going to do. And all of a sudden that creeping suspicion came up. Was this a word play? Was this what's going on here? And what came up for me, what I learned, was that we were in charge of defining what win looks like. Because he was specific. It wasn't a race. He just said, go, you guys circle up and find out, how are you going to win? What does it mean to you to win? And I'm like, oh, you freaking assholes. All right. So it didn't have to be a race. And the point was made, like, how many of you went up on the bench of the bluff and looked over the beautiful surroundings? That's a win. How many of you got through? Oh, and by the way, the people every one of us interpreted it as a race. So no, but the funny thing was, the rule was everybody had to spend 25 minutes at the wheel. And even the fastest car didn't technically win because they got there and only went through 2 drivers, not all 4. So given all of the facts, we were in charge of what a win meant. And we could have done 100 things. They had these cool things where you run up the hill, like your motorcycles do it. There's all kinds of outdoor competitions where you're like, and get all the way to the top, right? There were several places to do that. that were designed for us to climb, right? So if they're there and they're designed for us to climb, it's going to be relatively safe. We already biffed it. What are we going to do? That we're not going to get more hurt, really. So every one of these were safe by design, but to give us the thrill of hitting these huge peaks, right? Climbing up. Nobody spent time. Oh, and there are these great hot pots and natural springs. None of us went to check out the natural springs. None of us jumped in the water. None of us did any of it. We raced to the end of the thing, trying to beat each other. We're all on the same team. None of us are competitors in the marketplace. We're all on the same team to build value in our organizations, build value inside of our persons, and build value in our communities, right? Build value in the world. We didn't collaborate. Not even the 4 people in the car collaborated. It was go 25 minutes and then we'll switch and you go 25 minutes. We didn't define a win. So my limiting beliefs, and every one of us, our limiting beliefs, this is a race. We're all alphas. And the winner is the one who crosses the finish line first. Even if only 2 of the 4 drivers got there was accounting for the rules that were given us. It was like, get across so it was so limited. It was so narrow, the definition of what win looks like. Well, you guys know where I'm going with this. How many times do you do the same thing that I did? How many times in our lives do we take the normal and regular definition of whatever's happening and we just go with it? How many of us have limiting beliefs that literally tell us? How many of us have limiting beliefs that define what a win is, and it's external? We just take it in like we did. Oh, it's a race. We're all alphas. Let's kill the other guys. Let's kill the people in our own group. Let's just do this. And there are 2 women in our group, and I mentioned one because she was driving, but there are 2 women in the group. And every single, we didn't have a woman in our group, but the whole idea, part of the feedback loop after the event was, let's put the women in a place so that because they're not going to drive as radical as we are, so we can make up time. We weren't working as a team. Not one of us were working as a team. Not one. We were all, how do we peg this and make up for any weaknesses in this group? Now, I'm the oldest gentleman in the entire crew. So in our car, I was the guy representing perhaps the weakling. Now, they've never seen me drive, and much to my chagrin. Quick story. So one of my partners a long time ago was bless his heart, his name was John. Actually, one of my partners at Lexington. Yeah. His name's John. And he let somebody else, we were going to lunch, and he said, no, go ahead, take the front seat. And he gets in the back seat. And he said, and somebody said, why, I want to defer. You're older than me. I wanted you to have the front seat. And he goes, no, I want to be as far away from the point of impact as possible. Because I am a freaking alpha driver. And so in this case, they all think just because I'm the oldest guy in the car, that I am not going to flip this thing on my own as well, because I got that adventure gene. And as I've defined to you guys in 100 different ways, the thing that makes of an adventure is a tragedy we survive. And so far, I've survived every single one of my tragedies. So they're all adventures to me now. And I have that feedback loop that everything's an adventure because I survive everything, right? Well, in this case, they were playing to me as being the weak link, right? I never got a chance to drive. We biffed it on our first driver. But the point is that we weren't working as a team. We weren't using each other's strengths. We weren't using each other's perspective. It was literally win. There was no discussion. We had 5 minutes to decide what win looked like to us, and we took 30 seconds. How do you, in your life, give away all of your power to your beliefs about what a win is? How often do you, like me in this case, especially, and all of my comrades, how many times do you not define the win? Well, one of the things that I learned coming out of this, because I'm here to up my game as a CEO, right? I'm here to make my company a spectacular example of giving and contribution to the world, happy, healthy, vibrant workplace, and giving a gift to every one of our students and clients. That's my job as a CEO. So what have I learned? Right now, you can ask any member of our team. Every team member is in the process or has gone through the exercise. What does a win look like in your daily activities as an advisor, as the finance team, as the in enrollments, right? Every one of us are in the process right now of defining what a win looks like on the day, on the week, on the month, etc. What does it mean to win? Because everybody, it isn't just clients enrolled. For us as a global organization, as an organization globally, it's clients funded, right? But there's also other metrics like how many people how much money has been saved by students and clients by implementing fundability strategies. There are so many things that we can define as a win. We've always defined as a win, how many dollars in business loans and lines of credit. And yet some of our most happy clients refinanced like 6 or 7 properties and are saving literally almost $10,000 a month in payments. That's more than 2 payments than they paid for their entire service with us, because we got them in a position to get the very best possible rates. We've been defining for our clients and students what their win is, instead of giving them the opportunity. What's a win? If I can refinance every one of my mortgages to 2.5 or 2 3/4%, that would be a godsend. But Nope. Merrill just, oh, what do you want? Oh, business lines of credit, business loans, right? For some, it is business loans and lines of credit. But for some, it's like, I want a powerful personal profile. And they don't even have a business, but they want to be able to get the best possible financing in your life, in your business. Where do you sell yourself out by externalizing your idea of a win? What does a win look like? And what are the milestones that you get to define to hit that win? Guys, not only was this a brutal emotional and spiritual and psychic lesson for me, but I noticed that I ended up with bruises all over my legs at the next couple of days, and I was limping for 2 days because something kicked in on my hip from this. Wasn't an accident. We were bound for it. You can't call that an accident. So the point is that we all have limiting beliefs. We all have limiting beliefs. We all have ideas that have been foisted upon us, that have been handed down to us. Could have been handed down from a mentor, from our parents, from our community, our religion, our political group. Doesn't matter. We all have inherited beliefs, and unless and as Socrates once said, an unexamined life is a life that is not worth living. How many of us have taken the time, guys, to examine our beliefs and then define a win for us? What does a win look like for me? Another example of that is even in this group, we got guys who are doing there's a thing, it's called 75 hard, and it is a brutal exercise regime. And then there's core 4, which is a self-defined exercise and a body being, where it focuses on body, being, balance, and business, right? But the cool thing about core 4 is that it's self-defined. You get to define what a win looks like. There's suggestions for it, but you get to define what that looks like. I'm not in physical shape to do 75 hard yet, but even in my own ranges, I get to push myself. I get to define for me what a win is. So that's the take-home message today, guys. In this episode, we got to stop using external values and priorities unless we're willing to bring those into our space, evaluate them like significantly, and then choose what a win looks like for you. And it can be your physical regimen, right? Your health and well-being. It can be your relationships. What is a win with your spouse, with your children? What is a win in your Z, right? We've spent time defining what is Z, right? In A to Z of your life, in the entire scope of your life. What is your Z? What is your end game? What is the quality of life at any point in time? We're not waiting until the end of our life. We're saying, what is the maximum amount of quality that we want? Z is not your Y. Your Y is your motivation, generational wealth, family that's healthy and safe and well educated, whatever they are. But your Z is the quality of the life you have while you're doing all of those activities. So, and you get to define it. In a recent boot camp, we had I went through the exercise. What's your Z? People are like, I want a ranch in California that is self-sustaining. I want another one was say I want to circumnavigate the globe on my own sailboat. Another one was to have a sailboat going from island to island in the Caribbean. Now that is Z. That's the quality of your life, not the motivation that got you there. That's why. So in the boot camp, I say Y does not equal Z. It gets you there. But unless you define what your Z is, we're just gonna be heads down, working a little and working our asses off and not having a direction because we haven't defined our win, guys. And that's not okay. We get to define our win. And that can be, what do my weekends look like? If I love mountain biking, how many weekends do I spend mountain biking? That's my Z. That's the quality of my life. How many of I love spending time with my children, but how many of us actually spend time with our children? What is your Z and how do we accomplish that? Now, here, you guys know me well. My Z for my business, the Z for my business is funding your Z, getting you in position so that lenders look at you and go, psh, yeah, you can have my money. That's my Z. That's the entire Z of this business. Our end game is when you bought in fact, one in the boot camp, I was going over this process. I said, so do you have the boat yet? You want to circumnavigate the globe. Do you have the boat yet? No. Well, there's our first thing we can do to help. How do we get the best terms, so you don't have to pull out all your damn financials and all the tax returns in order to qualify, right? First goal, how do we get the boat? Second goal, how much time do you need out of the business to be able to do this? That's the next thing. How do we build teams? How do we build credit lines so that we can finance expansion so we can hit those things so you can have your Z? You guys following me? Are you getting this? My Z is helping you fulfill your Z. But to do that, you have to define it. You have to define the win. And you guys, they're little tiny ones. Little tiny ones. A win. We talked about this when we were doing the end of the year sprint, right? The New Year's revolution instead of New Year's resolution. One of the things that we looked at is how do we create wealth in our finances, wealth in our health and well-being, and wealth in our relationships. Every one of those deserves your time and attention to define a win. What's a win with your spouse, with your beloved? What's a win with your children? What's a win with your body? I have been a slug. I've shared this with you before. I've been a slug for 3 years. And since I joined the multiple club group, I'm every day, I'm up to 225 reps and I just pick the different types of activities. Some are burpees, some are push-ups, some are shoulder presses in 25 increments, right? But I get to define what my win looks like every single day by choosing the 25, the different 25 sets that I get to, or 25 reps that I get to do. And I am sore and happy because I've defined it to fit me. I'm not following one of the groups that these younger men, all freaking alphas, that these younger men are doing, but I'll get there. Because I want to be the biggest and most beautiful and bold, brilliant self I can be. And I want that for you too. And I know you want that for you. So let's examine our beliefs. Let's get rid of our limiting beliefs. Let's define the win and let's hold it as our Z, as the quality of our life. In the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year, and our lifetime. We can do it. And I want to do it with you. This is Merrill Chandler, your host of the Get Fundable podcast. And let's hit our Z.
Thank you for listening to the Get Fundable podcast. Please leave comments because Merrill would love to read about your aha moments from this episode. And be sure to visit getfundable.com to read our blog, get important links, join our community, and much, much more, like ordering Merrill's tell-all book that is changing the world, The New F Word. And you got to tell your friends about this podcast because we want them to get fundable too.